What is up, guys? So today we got Pyke. We got Pyke and a bunch of more lurkers in Bilgewater. So they kind of was revealed that Bilgewater would also have some lurkers. They revealed that on day one. We didn't know just how intertwined these two regions would be with this archetype, but seems like very. But also the good news is that they seem like they might be able to function separately in different ways. So it doesn't seem like Pyke and Rek'Sai have to be played together whatsoever, which makes me very happy. So let's dive in and talk about some of the cards that we got. So first off, we got a bunch of these cards here, and this was the reveal before Pyke actually came out. And the reveal schedule got a little wonky because Pyke came out on the top 32 seasonal day, so they kind of revealed him slowly throughout the day, but we have it all here now on RuneterraCCG.com. So check out this first card here, the list. This card's super crazy. It's a zero-cost slow spell. Bilgewater, of course. Grant an enemy vulnerable, or if it's already vulnerable, the strongest ally starts a free attack challenging it. So the first part's kind of nice, just that you have, at least it has some type of use if you really can't find any other vulnerable triggers. But there are so many vulnerable triggers in the game now. Bilgewater alone has a ton of vulnerable triggers, which is really great. They have some really good ones as well. You have Shakedown, you have the Hired Gun. You just have a bunch of solid ones. But then on top of that, Shurima has some really strong ones with Merciless Hunter, with Exhaust, Ruthless Predator, and they have a lot of synergy with that, with Renekton and things like that. So this card could definitely see some play just with Renekton for the second portion, right? If it's already vulnerable, the strongest ally, so you don't get to pick the ally, but it's just the strongest ally you have, which it's a zero cost card, which is, kills your deck a little bit because you're running zero cost cards. It's not you're gonna be playing multiple cards a turn. You're gonna run out of steam a little bit quicker, but there's a lot of upside to it. So if Renekton gets a free attack on a vulnerable ally or vulnerable enemy, and instantly gets his +2/+1, strikes that guy, he gets to attack again. If you have another thing that's vulnerable out there, he will then challenge something else, get another +2/+1. You can definitely level him in one turn. So with Renekton, this card's awesome. I can't wait to try it with Renekton for sure. And it's just a really interesting card. I think it'll see some play in a few different archetypes. Definitely, like I said, Renekton, but it also kind of makes sense in, like I said, Sejuani type list too. You're granted vulnerable and zero attack with Frostbite, and then you just have them get eaten for free. Really solid stuff. The list is a super fun card. Can't wait to try it out. This next card and the next four cards are all directly more in tune with the Lurker aspect. So this card is a spell with the Lurker tag as well, which we've seen that once with Shurima already, so I really like this. You give it another chance for this spell to be able to fit into the deck, but also meet the archetype's needs of having to have Lurk cards. So I think that's really sweet. It's a one-cost card at burst speed, which creates a Snapjaw Swarm on the top of your deck. So not only is it a Lurker itself, but it also creates a Lurker card on top of your deck for you. So that does mean you're going to draw that next. That's the 2-cost that gets the free attack when played. He's a 2-cost Lurker. But it also sets up that Lurk. So you know 100% you're going to have a Lurker on top of your deck, and therefore you can then just attack freely knowing your Lurk will trigger. Pretty interesting. Just 1 cost, and your next turn you're getting a 2-cost that has a free attack. Kind of interesting. I'm not sure if it's going to make the final cut of the Lurker list, but it definitely adds a lot of consistency. So if the deck ends up needing consistency, this is for sure a way to look for that consistency. I think it's a pretty solid card. The next one, however, is a little bit weird. I do like that it's a landmark that costs 1, and it also has Lurker, which is super sweet. So now we see a landmark with a tag, with a keyword, which is really awesome. But it's when allies attack, you obliterate the top card of your deck. So just remove from the game if it doesn't have Lurk. And the intended purpose is for this to happen before the Lurker goes to proc. So you can attack if the top card of your deck is something else that's in the way of where you want, because you want to hit that Lurk. It'll obliterate that card and put the next card up, which that again could be a card without Lurk. You could get unlucky, or you just another shot at getting a Lurker there. If you attack and the card is a Lurker on top, then you're set. It's already a Lurker and you're good. It won't obliterate anything. A little iffy on this one. Taking up a board space is kind of weird, especially because there's a lot of early Lurker champs or Lurker followers that we're seeing here. So I'm not 100% sold on this one yet. Obliterating your own deck is cute. Has a little bit of synergy with like Deep. If you want to just put this in and run no Lurkers, I guess. I don't think you really need to. It's just kind of funny that you can. But yeah, I just don't think it's really needed off the top. Just what I'm looking at right now off the top of my head, just thinking about how I would make this list, I don't think Ripper's Bay would probably make the cut. Whereas I think Bloodbait would fill a similar purpose, and I'd probably run that as like a 2 of instead. Just my thought. Maybe Ripper's Bay ends up being like super needed for the deck, and the consistency is just not there. You're going to have to flesh out your list and see how many lurker cards you have and how many you don't, and then go from there. So it's an interesting card. I think it's really sweet that both Bloodbait and this have the lurker tag themselves, so they already can just help in that instance, and then they add just a consistency for your lurking, which is cool. The Sharkling's just a 1-drop 1/2 with lurk, pretty straightforward there. Okay stats, and it's just going to escalate as it builds. Sure, I mean, Bilgewater has so many good 1-drops. They got the Butcher for 2/2. They got the Crab, that's a 2/4, but when you summon it or when you play it, it's a 2/2 because it deals 2 damage to itself. And now they have this thing, which is just going to escalate. So it's going to have 2 health already. It can block 1 attack units, but it also has a high attack depending on what turn it is, and it can go all the way up. If you're first, you play this, you attack, you hopefully have a lurker on top of your deck, and you're already at a 2/2 1-drop, which is great. You just go up from there, and then you can chump higher things. I mean, I can't see this not making the deck. I just think it's a lot of value for... it should chump something that has 4 health or 3 health, and it should do it successfully and be a solid card. I think Sharkling's really great. It's not as great here as the Redfin Hammersnout. This thing is amazing. So a 2-cost lurker that is a 1/2. So again, weak stats for a 2-drop, but you have to remember the lurk tag is there, so it will get more attack. Remember, lurk applies to everywhere in the board or everywhere in the game, so you're going to get plenty of boosts. Even if this is just a 2/2 or 2/3 or 3/2, it's solid, but it has a play effect, grant an enemy vulnerable. So vulnerability is amazing. We've already seen Shurima have decent success with vulnerable, and I think with the list getting printed here, you can even start trying to add some of that vulnerability to this type of list, and it's amazing. I think this is a really, really good card. One of the best things about this vulnerable mechanic and having it on a lurker with other lurkers in your deck, of course, is that you can use your 1-drops or your 2-drops like this or the Sharkling to trade up drastically into like a champion, right? You can trade up very well and quickly into something that has way more health than your 1 attack unit initially had, but then as you lurked, you got a bigger and bigger 1 or 2-drop, and they just trade so efficiently. Really like this package of 5 cards here. I think they're all really solid, and I think they really kind of show you that, okay, there's this sustain and like solid replayability of this lurker mechanic in the early game for Bilgewater, which we didn't fully see. We saw a decent amount of lurk and some predict options in there for Shurima. I just think these cards are really honing down like, okay, no, this is a solid starting list and makes lurk look even better with these. Of course, we have to talk about the next champion, which was revealed yesterday, so we'll scroll up here to Pyke, and this takes lurk to a whole nother level. It changes the whole scope of the deck, right? You think lurk at first is going to be this progressing mid-range type of deal, and you're going to have this big payoff of having, Rek'Sai get massive and attack and do these things. Well, now Pyke introduces a whole nother game plan. He is a 4-drop 2/3. Weak stats, we know that. He has quick attack and lurk, of course, and he's a lurker himself. When I lurk, transform me into death from below. So he transforms, and when he lurks, that means when you attack and he's the top card of your deck. When you do that, he transforms into a spell instead of the champion. This spell is not deckable, but it does have lurk, of course, because you're transforming him right there. And it has a 4-cost tag, and it's a fast speed spell, but it says summon Pyke, and he strikes an enemy. So summon Pyke striking an enemy. So it looks like you can just choose an enemy to summon. You choose an enemy to target. Pyke summons and strikes that enemy. It doesn't say a random enemy or anything like that. So pretty sure, I think that's how the video showed it. So essentially, Pyke now, who's, yes, only a 2 attack. If you have this spell, he's already a 3 attack, because that means you lurked once. If you lurk 2-3 times, he's a 4 or 5 attack. You can use 4 mana to summon a unit and remove something. It's not single combat, so they're not striking Pyke back. He's just striking an enemy, and that's bonkers. It's actually insane. It's such a good assassin-y feel for Pyke, too. Really sweet card, really sweet mechanic, how they work that in. And I'm not even talking about his level-up condition yet. Just this mechanic is super awesome. And powerful. Like, not just, like, cool mechanically or design-wise. It's extremely scary in its power. He's a 2/3, like I said, he levels when allied Pykes have dealt 15 plus damage. So it's not even like he has seen Pyke do, this Pyke has done 15 damage. He's seen allied Pykes do 15 plus damage. It's just when Pyke deals 15 damage. That's across the board. So you're going to have 2 different Pykes doing this damage, and that will be enough to level him up if you can get to 15. So his summon and strike from Death from a Blow will add on to that, and he has quick attack, so you can pretty safely attack as he gets bigger power as well. And then, hopefully you can deal some more damage. Even if they just chump block his quick attack, you can still deal some more damage that way and level him up. On his level up condition, he just gets a static +1/+1, which is pretty standard for across the board. He still has the ability of when he lurks, he transforms into death from below. And when he kills an ally, I strike the weakest enemy is his new text on the level up condition. Now, a lot of people, looking at this during the leak, because this leaked in a bunch of different languages, and people were like, okay, he's going to kill something and strike something, and then the reveal video shows, no, he actually chains that. So when he kills an enemy, he strikes the weakest enemy. If that weakest enemy dies, he then strikes the next weakest, and so on, and so on. So in the video, they literally show him clear a board via just striking the weakest enemy because he had 6 or 7 attack, and everything else that he eventually worked his way up only had 4 or 5 health. So he literally continuously struck and killed an entire board just by killing one thing. So if you can get him to kill something, he will strike the entire board, which is obnoxious. So you can just attack. If they get a chump block, he's going to then start striking across the board. If he even just blocks and survives, he will start striking the whole board. If you use something like Death from Below and he's leveled, he'll kill the whole board, single combat, etc. Or Bone Skewer. So Bone Skewer is a spell that's already been in the game, which is awesome that they did this. I think it's really neat. But it's a 2-cost spell. We already know what it does. It's an ally strikes an enemy, and then you move that ally to the top of your deck. That's actually his champ spell. So that they put that spell in the game a while ago, which is really cool. And it already was like a nice spell for Bilgewater. It was already seeing some play in deep because you can put life stealing and tossing units back on top of your deck. So you get like the life steal and get the toss and then go back. Now it makes total sense. The lurker tag, once things on top of your deck, of course this card puts things right on top of your deck. It makes total sense. It fills in that archetype perfectly. And looking at Pyke as his champion spell, his level 1 is level 2, and the spell that he transforms into, I think he is one of the best champions we've ever seen printed in Legends of Runeterra. Bold claim, if I was rating him for Runeterra CCG, which I've done in the past, he'd at least be a 4.5. I think he's disgusting. He might be a little narrow because you do have to run a lot of lurkers. I don't think you have to run him with Rek'Sai at all. I think you can build him with Noxus. I think you can build him with just Demacia. I think you can build him a lot of different ways, or Shurima without Rek'Sai, right? Shurima and just Renekton and just run things like that. I think there's a lot of ways. You don't really need him to lurk, get the lurk bonus that much. Like, even if he has 5 or 6 attack, that's plenty for him to be an absolute nightmare on the board. He doesn't have to live the dream of getting 10 attack like Rek'Sai does. He'll be massive. And then you have to strike the board, and then you have to clear the game after that, where Rek'Sai does offer a nice overwhelm potential to end the game. I just think his consistency and his assassination type archetype here is disgusting. I think it's going to be really, really strong. I think he's one of the best champions we've seen in a while. They revealed 4 other cards as well during the live stream for the top 32. The 2 other ones are, well, actually, it's really only 3 cards. One's just a skill, but the first one is from Bilgewater. It's a top-end card. It's an 8-cost Bilgewater card, the Jowl Fish. Remember, we have the Jowl Hunters already, the 4-drop 4/1. They're hunting this thing. Well, now we have the fish itself. It's an 8-drop 2/7 epic card. It is a lurker, and it has a skill on play. Each lurker ally strikes a random enemy. So we're not 100% sure how this is going to work yet. It is. You can see the skill next to it. It's just each lurker ally strikes a random enemy. It's interesting. It's definitely going to. It feels like a Riptide Rex to a degree. Now, Riptide could have multiple things. A little RNG aspect for Riptide is he could have multiple cannons at the same target, and then if the target's gone, it deals a little bit of damage to the Nexus. That's pretty cool. We don't know exactly how the Jowlfish is going to work yet. It says each lurker ally strikes a random enemy. That could just tick off one at a time. So Jowl himself is a lurker, so he'll strike. And remember, lurkers are getting bigger, so if they're 4, 5, 6 attack, they're going to one-shot most things. But Jowl could just instantly one-shot something. Now, could the next thing get fizzled because it's also targeting that? I don't think that's how it's going to work. I think it's going to work where they don't go one at a time. So Jowl will strike, then Pyke will strike, then X will strike, and it'll go like that, and where multiple things won't target the same thing if it dies. Now, of course, if it has like 8 health, you could have 2 things target it. But I don't think it'll just like randomly RNG you out and just everything targeted a Sand Soldier, and then all your strikes disappear. I don't think that's going to be how it works. Again, not 100% sure until we play with the card. But I can say if it doesn't work that way, this card's obnoxious. It's so good. Definitely like a 2 of, like Riptide Rex. Even he was sometimes a 3 of in like real hard plunder decks. But this is a crazy, I mean, Pyke already can board wipe himself, and this even helps Pyke trigger more because Pyke is a lurker ally and he will strike. But this will just let you really just start wiping the board, even if you don't have Pyke, and just really just consistently get the whole board off and have your massive army of lurkers. Now, the lurkers kind of function like deep a little bit, right? They're going to get bigger as the game goes on, but they won't gain extra health, so you can still remove them, which is good. But that's why I like that this guy is a 2/7. His stats are really good for a lurker. Two other cards. So we're going to move away from Bilgewater, but overall I am extremely impressed by the Bilgewater cards from these past 2 days. I think their lurker stuff is far and beyond what a lot of us were expecting and how good they were going to be. I think it's looking up to be like a very solid deck or multiple decks. But moving away from that, we have two other cards. One from Demacia. It's an elite 4-drop. 3/2 with Challenger. On play, you create a Fleet Feather Tracker, a Blinding Assault, or a Silver Wing Vanguard. So those are 4 different cards. Fleet Feather Tracker is the 1-cost Blinding Assault. You have the 2-cost spell that'll get you your nice Valor there for more challenging, or the Silver Wing Vanguard, which will get you more challenging units as well. So this is just awesome. I mean, this is a card that essentially lets you create 3 different things. It's got like a mini invoke package in itself, and its stats are a little weak, yeah, but you get another card out of it, which Demacia desperately needs, especially elite style decks. They desperately need to then refill their value, and I think they can do it really well with Swiftwing. He also has another effect. When he attacks, other allies challenging get +1/+1. So not just they have Challenger, but they have to be challenging. So they have to actually be effectively pulling things out. And we know this works with Vulnerable as well, because that's considered challenging at that point, because you've seen the Honored Elite get Barrier when he does that against a vulnerable target. So super interesting. I mean, it's like a really flexible card. I mean, it's an epic, and it feels like an epic. It's a 3/2 weak stats, yeah, but it creates a card and buffs the rest of your board and is an elite. Really good card. Demacia is going to be pretty happy with this for sure. It's not going to just auto-include in every deck, but it fits right into any elite build that you're building for sure. Heavy Challenger builds like Shen and Fiora and things would love this type of card because it has Challenger itself as well. I don't even know if I said that, but it's really solid, especially if you're running any like shielding, barrier mechanics. Very solid card. Speaking of shielding and barrier, it takes us right into the next card, which is like my favorite art in the entire game so far. It's absolutely crazy. It's this giant treant with Shen walking down out of like a portal on top of its head. It's a 7-drop 8/6, big stats for 7 from Ionia. Allies with barrier have double attack. And play, draw a Shen. So it's Shen's boat, right? We have all these different boats in the game between the Siren and the Leviathan, and they draw their champions, right? You have one for Sejuani and Gangplank as well. Now we have one for Shen, so Shen has a boat. It just so happens that Shen's boat is a giant living tree creature with a portal on its head. He draws a Shen, which is great for 7. 8 and 6 are good stats, and then its ability is just wild. Allies with barrier have double attack. Will that always matter? Probably not. If you're just playing like a Shen Demacia build, yeah, you don't really need double attack if they're just chump blocking, but what it does matter is with cards like Syncopation and Stand United, where you can actually swap different positions, and if you get something with barrier without a blocker in front of it, you're going to end games. You're going to blow up the Nexus for sure, and they already do a lot of tricks like that, right? You put the Greenblade Caretaker into a position where it can just deal a ton of damage because it's got a bunch of attack. Well, now it really only needs to have 10 damage, then double attack, and you win the game. You can one-shot a Nexus with that. Super interesting card. I mean, I could definitely see it being ran as like a 2-of. I'm for sure going to try some shenanigans, maybe with Jarvan Shen, things like that, coming up with this card. And, we know Jarvan has a boat as well, so you can run these larger cards to draw those. But I think both of these cards here really help the archetype of, like, mid-range combat in, the Fiora Shen archetype, but with, the new stuff of Jarvan and Shen, and now that Fiora is at 3/2, it does hurt a little bit, so you can run it with those type of things. So what do you guys think? Let me hear your thoughts in the comments. Am I crazy, or is Pyke one of the best champs we've ever seen in this game? I think he's absolutely bonkers, and he's definitely the main focus of this video. So hopefully you enjoyed the breakdown real quick, and if you want to discuss it, we have a Discord opened. You can check the link out below. Follow us on Twitter for a bunch more, and just stay tuned and get hyped for Pyke. I am certainly there. Catch you guys next time.